So we have Bill McNeil, who is working as our consultant for the regions that are participating in the Fair Housing Assessment. He is working through PTRC, which is the Piedmont Tribe Regional Council. He's stepping in tonight to present the report up to this point. The consultants are coming into town next week, but it really didn't work with council's schedule, so we decided to have him to present tonight. So this will just be looking at the data that's been collected thus far and the strategies and recommendations going forward. He'll give a timeline on where we're at this point and what we can look forward to over the next 2 months. So, Bill?
Great, thank you, Shauna. I'm here representing Piedmont Tribe Regional Council. It's been my pleasure to convene a working group that Shauna was participating on, along with people from Greensboro, High Point, in the Surrey Home Consortium, nearly 4 counties up in the northwestern part of our region. Collectively, we've joined together on a new assessment of fair housing. We engaged a consultant team, Mulliner & Lonergan, who's been to town twice, met with citizens and stakeholders. As for tonight, let's see. It's a little thin. Let's see. Maybe just go there. Okay, a lot easier. Want to cover the process, talk a little bit about major findings that the consultant team discovered. They have then proposed a set of goals and strategies for Burlington to consider. I'm going to touch a little bit on the next steps in this process and then take any questions and answers that you have. I know you have very limited time tonight. I'm going to go very quickly through this material. The full document is available on the city's website in all of its glory, lots of maps, lots of data behind it. So if anybody's interested, it's there, and I'll respond to any questions. First, what is this regional assessment of fair housing? Some of you involved in the city's CDBG program know that you have had something called an analysis of impediments, and that was deriving from 20 years ago. HUD laid out the rules for addressing fair housing. They have now proposed a new approach, and we're trying out a regional assessment of fair housing with a lot different collection of information and way of analyzing information to look at fair housing and fair choice issues in this city, in the other 3 cities that are involved, and the 4 counties. There's a lot of data. It's data-driven. It's also there's more citizen involvement, citizen engagement than you might have had in previous analyses of fair housing. It is connected then at the end of this process in this summer. The recommendations and the plan that will be before you in September will help inform your next 5-year consolidated planning process. So the fair housing assessment will feed into the thinking and the strategies that you develop as part of your consolidated plan. The methodology had a lot of layers in it. Loads and loads of data for quantitative analyses. Also a lot of qualitative information from interviews with community groups and stakeholders in a public meeting or 2 that we've held here. And also looking at traditional fair housing complaints that HUD has gathered. All leading to a set of findings, and I'll touch on the key findings in a moment or 2. The first major finding, Burlington continues to diversify. You'll see here a lot of data on population trends from 2000 to 2010. This is very similar to what we're seeing in other parts of the region. Just about all counties are undergoing this sort of population shift. There's more diversity. In this city and in the rest of the region also, the diversity is leading to somewhat improved, to less segregation, more integration of minority groups. out a couple figures here. While the city's overall population increased by 11.2%, the non-white population increased by a little bit over 25%. But down at the bottom row, the Hispanic population in Burlington increased by just under 77%. Another major finding, one of the HUD tools was looking at the combination of racial concentration and high poverty. You'll see on this map of the region to the left and then Burlington and Alamance County to the right part of this slide, there are what are called racially concentrated areas of poverty, 6 of them in Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, Thomasville, and Lexington. These are areas that have more than 50% minority concentration and more than 40% poverty. So there are some what are called RCAPs, and this really is to call cities' attention, both the larger cities in Thomasville and Lexington. Here's some areas that need some special attention, particularly with CDBG, federal funding, and home funding. The consultant also, though, looked at areas, census tract block groups, that were not exactly that concentrated, but were almost that concentrated, and they identified some of what they're calling near RCAPs, areas that had 40% or greater minority concentration and 30% or greater poverty. And you'll see Burlington has one of these so-called near RCAPs in the northern part of the city, around the Glen Raven neighborhood. Another finding, looking at housing needs and the needs of low and moderate income people and people in protected classes, disabled and minority people. Far and away, the need is for multifamily affordable housing. In the green areas, and there's lots and lots of data that inform areas that are green are considered high opportunity areas, areas close to good schools, close to services, close to jobs, with a high degree of labor market engagement that is low unemployment, and also relatively close to where transit is. And so looking both at the region and then at Alamance County and Burlington on the right, the green areas are so-called high opportunity areas. As you could expect, those are in western parts and the northwestern part of Burlington, along the I-40 and US 70 corridor. You'll see the dots in there in this slide. That indicates where multifamily apartment complexes are located. One dot represents 100 multifamily units. So there's a fairly good presentation of multifamily developments in the western area of high opportunity. But on this is a lot of data here, but the middle portion shows black residents of the city and where the concentrations of black residential population are. And then the right slide shows where Hispanic residents. The finding that the consultant has pointed out is that there is a lack of affordable housing opportunities that are affordable to protected classes, to minority groups, and all other low and moderate income people in high opportunity areas. There's affordable housing in the red areas, but not so much that is affordable in the green high opportunity areas. Another major finding, and this is something that I've been watching your progress on the issue of public transportation. Early on, it was pretty clear to the consultant that the lack of public transportation was inhibiting the ability of minority groups and low and moderate income people to get from places where they were living to high opportunity services and jobs. So this is pointing out a finding that lack of transportation services was a barrier preventing people and the access of people to jobs and other services. Based on all those findings and all of the data, there are 3 priorities, and these priorities are pointed out for the region as a whole. They apply to really every part of the region and for the city of Burlington. You can see they deal with addressing the public transportation, expanding public transportation options for people, making more affordable and accessible housing available in high opportunity areas, the green areas on the maps before, and then encouraging through economic development strategies more sustainable employment opportunities closer to those racially concentrated areas of poverty. So addressing where new affordable housing should locate, but also an economic development part of this to create more jobs in highly concentrated areas. The strategies for the city, and I'll just touch on these, there's a lot of material behind it. The first goal is to decrease the disparity in access for protected classes to high opportunity areas. I've touched on that. One way to deal with this is through the development and expansion of your public transit services. The second goal is to expand affordable housing affordable housing opportunities in high opportunity areas. There are several strategies to accomplish this, to work on this. One is to deploy your rounds of home funding that you get through the federal government to encourage more affordable housing in high opportunity areas. You'll see the last strategy on this slide, to work with the Graham Housing Authority that has an allocation of Section 8 housing choice vouchers for them to market those vouchers to find apartment managers in high opportunity areas who will accept a number of Section 8 residents. There are others that can be addressed through looking at your zoning ordinance, through your UDO or Unified Development Ordinance process, and your update of the comprehensive plan. Another strategy, expand access to HUD programs. And this is primarily for people who don't speak English as their primary language. The strategy is fairly simple. A number of cities around the state have already done this type of work, adopting a language access program that will help people who don't speak English proficiently. The fourth goal is to increase awareness of fair housing. Fair housing is the law of the land, but a lot of people don't know exactly what does that law mean. They may not understand that some policies may or may not further fair housing. So there's a call for education and outreach to city staff, to yourself, to apartment managers, to realtors, members of city boards and commissions. And then the second strategy deals with outreach, primarily to immigrant groups and Hispanic-speaking populations. The fifth strategy deals with improving the physical environment in lower-income neighborhoods, primarily those near RCAP areas that were pointed out on the slide earlier, using your housing code enforcement process within the framework of the law, using your housing rehabilitation program through your CDBG program. There's a call for home buyer training to make sure that when we come out of this recession, as people are able to buy new homes, they prepare themselves so they know what they're getting themselves into. And also a call for dedicating, devoting some of your CDBG money to deal with issues in the racially concentrated, in the near RCAP area in the northern part of the city. As far as next steps, we're meeting here tonight, and this is a briefing for you to give you a sneak preview on it. Next week there will be a public meeting at 10 o'clock on Wednesday here in this room for anybody and anybody who wants to come and learn a little bit more about what's being suggested. There'll be a 30-day comment period to hear from people, community groups, or anybody who wants to comment on any part of this. This draft, and I have a draft here, but this draft will be revised and brought back to you for your September 16 meeting. We hope that you'll be ready at that point to adopt the action plan part of this, and that will be sent into HUD by October 1. I said that then informs your next round of consolidated planning, which will begin probably in the fall and early winter.
For the next 2 months.
And then that consolidated plan will be delivered to HUD in May of 2015. And if anybody wanted any more information, I'm wide open and available. Shauna will also be one who, she knows about as much as I do about it, and we've been working with the consultant. And then any comments will be fed back to Shauna officially through the comment process. Any questions? I know I've gone very quickly through a lot of material.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
I guess on the first and second slide that you showed, I put not affordable to as much as city, the lower income slides that you had with Burlington where they were,
Maybe this one?
well, we can get that one there back. And then maybe this question is to Sean, that I see along that 87 corridor north to 62, which are basically black neighborhoods in that area there, and then what's inner city between 85, 40 there. Yeah. I guess the other part of my question is, how do you distinguish non-whites versus blacks and African Americans?
If I understand the way that the census data identifies that, non-whites include African Americans, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans, people who identify themselves in the census as two or more or other. There is, within our census framework, people also are asked to identify whether they're Hispanic. Hispanic is, as I understand the census, Hispanic people are not necessarily non-white. Some non-white people may also be identified as Hispanic, people from Cuba or the Dominican Republic or other.
Right. So all this information came from the census?
Yes, it's all works off of census data.
Okay.
Sean, why don't you go back and give a real brief history with me of all this?
Okay. So back in last summer, HUD proposed, and I came to council and briefed you that they were proposing a new rule which was going to require cities to have an assessment of fair housing in place so that 6 or 9 months before your consolidated plan was actually submitted to HUD. So that was a proposed rule that HUD was doing. Regardless, cities have to do an analysis of impediments to fair housing after their consolidated plan was done. So we got on the front end of this and had an assessment of fair housing completed before our consolidated plan so that those two can intertwine together when they're submitted to HUD in May. And that was the back there. Does that answer your question?
And as you will see in the next presentation, the city and HUD will be much closer together as we get to public transportation also. So this is a lot of things we deal with now.
Right, are going to be coinciding together more. And regardless, we were going to have some new fair housing plans because we're a recipient of federal funds for CDBG and homes. So it was either going to be, we work on doing this or we're doing another analysis of impediments to fair housing. It's not as detailed as what an assessment of this would be.
Part of what plays into this, obviously, as Bill mentioned, the road transit, we're working on comp plan now, and also bids go out for the updated UDO, and it already is already out, and we get that person will be selected here soon to start working on that.
So in other words, at some point in time, to be able to qualify for the funds that we have been receiving over the years, you're gonna have to show that you're doing some sort of
Right, so,
plan.
so all of these strategies and the goals, we will report to HUD on how we address them every year. It might not be something that you address, like, you know, we're working to address one goal over a period of 2 to 3 years. It's not something that has to be immediately done, but we have to tell HUD, look, in order for us to continue to get this money, we are addressing these issues that we've identified in our community.
That amount of dollars, what do we receive this year?
It was 429,913, and that was a reduction. We had the largest reduction in the state. And then our home funds went up slightly, so we're getting between the city and county almost $400,000 of our program income, because that's increased substantially. And that's our payback on our loan.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Why are you advising the city of Burlington to partner with Graham Housing Authority and not the Burlington Housing Authority?
Because Graham Housing Authority receives Section 8
Okay.
vouchers, and the Burlington Housing Authority does not.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm just on the agenda tonight. We begin really in earnest now in terms of planning of public transportation. Since our last council meeting, the council approved the concept, staff has met a minimum of 1 to twice a week, and that group's been made up of Mike Nunn, Amy Nelson, Melvin Kirkland from Planning Area, Frank Oventegger from Finance, Charles Bateman, who's on the telephone. Are you not, Charles? Charles Bateman, you're going to be on the telephone, from legal and myself, and beginning to try to put together maybe a critical path as we go forward to put this process into play. And as we've gone through the process, we begin to see that it certainly has a number of different groups we'll be dealing with, a number of hurdles we have to get through to make this work in an appropriate timeline. In front of you is, Charles, are you there, buddy?
I can, yes, I can.
Okay, I would appreciate it. We just getting ready to get started on public transit. And Charles was just on a slide from our meetings we've had the last couple of weeks, beginning to look at the 35 critical areas in the beginning here, and that revolves around the establishment of administrative staff, which we'll talk about in terms of a contract solution, but mobile mobility solutions tomorrow night in the council meeting. The FTA grantee application process, which we got started, which is also on the agenda for tomorrow night. The governance concept here, service area, and participation. These are all 5 areas, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong, we've gone through that we believe we really need to start to take a real hard look at to get this process started, to give it some kind of ability to follow a decent timeline in reference to implementation. Do you not agree?
I've heard those things, and one of the things that we considered that really is going to have to be addressed sooner rather than later is the governance concept. And I say soon, I would say probably not later than the September meeting. We really need to be looking at that very seriously. And the discussions of staff really revolve around 2 proposed or possible methods of running the system. The first was to have the council run it and then have a commission, which would operate much the way that a traffic commission operates, and all the more
certainly will take some period of time, but the governance, it's really important. I've had conversations with one, all informal with some of the cities. Some have pointed out very clearly that they didn't think they want to be involved unless they had someone at the table in terms of the governance. Now, I've not talked to Gibsonville.
You're right. You're exactly right. They feel the same way.
In terms of other communities. That would lend back to what Charles was saying about going to a governance. I think what NOLA has put together here today is some slides that shows you, have you not known how you can do weighted boards in terms of population. If you think about going that route, probably need to go that NOLA. Let's go to for example, that tells you, let's just say the 3 cities that we have shown some significant interest in. That's a little bit blurred. It was my eyes, 1 and 2. It was my eyes. My eyes. All right, it's shows Burlington, Gibsonville, and Medon. It breaks down the population. It talks about a 5-person board there, and it goes back to the concept of a weighted vote, as it's put together, I think, in the, I believe it's in the NPOs, is it not? Concept there. But again, these are just examples we're showing you, but I think we need conversation to begin about governance, because for this thing to really work going forward, whichever way we go, we need to begin that process and put it together in an orderly manner. It's going to take some legal work. It's just as a, let me just say this, the work for public transportation is just started. Put this process together to get us to the day of when the system is running.
Yeah, there are 2 approaches council could look at. One is if you start with the commission format. We can have that local agreements at the point toward have someone create some documents that we would expand the board or whatever, possibly convert at such time as other municipalities join. Or if you start out immediately, have our own board and say, well, municipalities join, and set up a process to allow them to have membership on the authority. So there's a very variety of ways that we can go. The legal process needs to start probably in the next 20 days, which is not going on.
One thing it does lead to, Charles, is a decision about the number of buses that we need to consider to purchase. As the deadline dates there, to get that in motion. And that number certainly will vary depending on the extent of the system itself and how many buses we will need.
I thought that number was 6. 4 would be in operation, 2 would be spared.
That number would be 6, and we have to apply for that. That would be the Medon was included. Is that not correct, Mike?
You'd have 5, if you had the system in Medon, you'd have 5 in operation, and the 6 would be spared.
If Medon's not involved,
So we have any feedback from Medon?
just from their staff, and the staff believes that certainly they would like some additional information, but they've also given the impression to the staff they sort of want to personally see them on board of an advisory group for the law.
It certainly would be beneficial, I think, to Medon or anyone considering participating if they knew what our governance was going to be, and also what the extent of our service was going to be. Are we going to get an ACC? Because all that plays into the numbers that we talked about previously.
Numbers meaning cost?
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a second, because we did talk about it that night. The max would be something like $419 regardless, right? And the minimum was 250, 225?
386 if you don't go to Medon, it's
To the
419,
max was like 425, 419.
based on the estimates that we did.
Okay. Once what I don't want to do at this point in time is start changing numbers.
You're gonna change.
What we talked about, you're gonna change numbers if gas goes up. For the first 3 years, it should be pretty steady.
Depending on when we start.
Right, I understand that, but
Numbers have already gone up. I mean, the price of buses have gone up and everything like that. So it's gonna be, and that's when Harold mentioned.
The numbers are going to go up until we have a contract.
Exactly. till you get the bids back from for the equipment and the bids back for the service provider. The planning estimates, just like we've used for 7, 8 years.
Nolan, with regards to other municipalities, is there a scenario that they've indicated that there'd be, if we had this scenario X, as opposed to us trying to create an arbitrary scenario with ACC?
I think we also had some discussion.
Graham's situation hadn't changed. It seems there's obviously some interest on council. I think there seems to be real interest still in that, and what I was told. And I have to let the mayor and Ben Baxley from Gibsonville, they can speak for themselves here.
Well, our position hasn't changed. When Mike King gave the presentation, the very night we voted unanimous to be part of it, if you guys accept it.
That's what I believe that's the extent of it as we speak right now.
For us to move forward, I think we need to consider maybe it's not gonna be with us. I mean, time is ticking. And so we've got to make some plans. And if you're saying the numbers are changing daily, which I find that to be very surprising, but we need to move forward and get going. We don't have time to wait on that. Everyone's had plenty of time to have conversation, have dialogue, ask questions. So now it's time to proceed and move forward.
That will help the overall schedule. I mean, that we have to get that before we can do any type of service planning or even proposal. We have a number of buses, and everything's tied to that.
Right.
It's a very good point.
I think what we're going to be asked is, and we'll go back to Nevy, is what will be the potential governance?
What does council think about that?
I'd like to make a comment. I think probably transit advisory would be the place to start rather than a transportation authority. I think over time, you could go to a transportation authority, but I think the advisory commission, let me back up just a minute. I really don't think it's the kind of thing that city council and city staff ought to be managing. In other words, I think we gotta have this commission that will develop some expertise. And I'm gonna go back. In my history, we had the cable authority. And that's what it was. It was really an advisory commission. Would make recommendations that send them to the city council, and the city council would take the final action. And that's my preliminary thinking, but I think, and also too, if you were to set up a transportation advisory commission, you could set it up where there could be some interest provisions for other municipalities. If you went with the weighted, you could still put language in there that if others were to later join, then you would have provisions, just where they could join. You wouldn't have to go back and reconfigure or re-adopt the advisory commission. So that's my thinking in a nutshell preliminarily. An advisory commission would essentially make recommendations on things, and final decisions on things would come to the city council. So,
I agree with Bob. That's what I'd like to see what's around.
Any other comments on that?
So what your vision is, they would have no decision making?
No, it's sort of like, really quite frankly, like with the, recreation, PMD, and all the other boards and commissions. I'm thinking, this is new for us, and we really don't know where we need a transportation authority, with authority. I think we need somebody to, or some board, some commission that would develop expertise, would learn all about it and, can bring something to the table and make a recommendation. Because in the end, I think probably, we're gonna be held ultimately accountable, and probably should be early on. But like I said, we know how it is now. We have a commission, for the most part. I don't know, with rare exception, would we not accept that recommendation? But we should have an opportunity to weigh in on it. And
we have an advisory group or commission, similar to what we have now with, say, traffic commission or recreation park, does not the staff do most of the legwork for those?
Well, it would certainly be a person that, a role or a contact person, either contracted the city, would be working with that advisory commission.
With the cable authority, I was the liaison. As a matter of fact, I did any recommendations, I would take it from the cable authority and bring it to the city council. My role would be to explain, the pros and cons of what was decided. But to answer your question, I think, yes, you would have to have a staff person assigned to it, sort of coordinate.
Let me ask this question, Mr. Butler and I talked about this extensively, about that we're basically contracting this out to private folks to run this thing. What's the interplay between the advisory board, city council, and the franchise, or the one who actually providing the service, the bus service?
Well, I think from a standpoint, you're gonna have a contractual agreement, similar to what you would have with a mutual aid agreement of Twitts Pipeline. You're gonna have a contract, and they're gonna have a certain amount of services. They're gonna be spelled out in that contract. If there was gonna be a material change in a route or a destination point, then there'd have to be an amendment to that contract that could ultimately change the dollars. But they're operating and maintaining the equipment. They're gonna have the personnel, the staffing, the training, and,
And as a practical matter, who do they respond to?
What, the contractor? Actually, ultimately, the contract really, quite frankly, would be between, the city, because like you correct me if I'm wrong, the federal government's gonna look for sort of a lead governmental entity, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, I think the contract would have to be with the city of Burlington, the municipality. It's not to say that, the authority wouldn't be involved in some of the, making recommendations with the administration of it. But like Jim said, what they would do is actually look at it and maybe, take suggestions from the contractor. I know with the cable authority would come to the commission, come to the cable authority, make recommendations, ask certain things, and then the commission will evaluate and make recommendations which will be sent on to the council. But again, to answer your question the best I know how, the contract would be with the city. It's not to say that I think probably again, the liaison person would probably be taking the lead as far as contract administration, be sort of coordinated with the advisor.
Just trying to envision the interplay between the lead staff person here who works for the city, okay? The advisory board, the contractor, and the city council.
Even more than that lead person, maybe we would be something differently, but I think it's the same thing, but also continue as you get involved in operations in terms of even customer service, to be, from a city standpoint, because we contract, if you five guys run the company that goes out and drives the buses, you're gonna have one side of things on customer service, and sometimes the city may be doing different. That person from the city, whether it's gonna be involved as sort of a balancing act there, not only working with the go to the advisory board, with the advisory board, and then coming back to city council, but also with the operations too, working with the contractor we have actually running the system.
Right.
But basically, what the same thing we used to have in
What you're talking about is that staff person.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Would have to take the lead.
He would have to take the lead, that's right.
And in terms of complaints.
That's right.
I know that all too well.
That's right.
You had to field those complaints, and then you act as an intermediary between the commission and the city council.
That's right. Because once we started, there'll be changes, it'll be flexible, and that, somebody's gonna have to be that middle person, make maybe adjustment in routes or a number of different things.
All right, with that being said, then, Mike, what did Concord do?
Concord had a situation with the service provider. They had a training commission, and they had myself and our staff as that in-between liaison. We communicated regularly with the service provider, made sure that they were operating the way they need to operate, took care of complaints, did the transit commission's agenda, minutes, actions, and then if anything needed to go to Concord City Council, we presented to City Council. The service provider will have a general manager, just to throw that out to you. They'll have a point person that is responsible for that contract to us or to you. So it'll be an easy communication channel. There'll be people in place to do that, but you'll have just like you're talking, you'll have that liaison person that's responsible for the service provision, transit commission, advisory council, authority, whatever, and then back to you. That way there's that three-way communication and everything's going on. That's how it's done in Concord.
Not to move this thing too quickly, but there's some advantages of doing it this way is, it may take a while to put this transit commission together. That's gonna be up to the council. But there might have to be some decisions made in the interim that the council's gonna have to make. Nolan, did you have the whole flow chart up there?
Yeah.
And please don't take these dates too quickly here, but this is kind of where we began working through with Charles, starting now and beginning to go through on how things would have to happen to get us to operation. So I'm sorry, it's too big for the screen. You want to kind of take them?
Yeah, well, I'll hit what I put here in red, bolded text. Those are kind of the high points. A lot of the other things are very important as well, but just to try to, instead of going through every point, obviously we approved transit last month, but one of the next big things we feel like is determining the governance and making that decision on whether they're going to the courthouse or not, which would lead into being able for other municipalities to make that decision on whether or not, they want to be a part or not. From there, you've got some significant process going into establishing whatever the governing body is, whatever policies, bylaws, whatever needs to be established. You also have to get into finalizing that and appointing members to that board. From there, that's where you get into this red text where we're anticipating sometime next spring that governing board being able to meet. And this particular timeline assumes that this board is going to make pretty much make recommendations at a minimum on most of the decisions. Because what we're working towards is, it takes up to a year or so, it depends on the contract, for the buses to arrive. So we've got to get to the point where we can make all the decisions necessary to get those buses ordered. Sometime in that process, we're trying to get our grantee direct recipient approval from FTA and DOT, so we'll be already working on that. Something on the agenda for you tomorrow night for that. So all that's going through, we're working through 5307 grant requests, because we're going to be having not just what we need for transit, but what ACTA needs, PART needs, TTA needs. There's a lot of needs that's going to be requested of those 5307 funds. So all that going on at the same time. Once you get the buses orders, you continue to work through a lot of details that go into the system set, and then you move into procuring that service provider. And then a year later, after order buses, sometime based on this concept, summer of July 16, potentially a fall 16 start date. Now that possibly could be moved back depending on how quickly things are put together up here, how quickly decisions are made. But one of the pieces there, I think, is City Council going to want the commissioner authority to make all the decisions about, number of routes, number of buses, color, name, all those things, branding, or does council want to make some of those decisions while the commission's getting developed and established, which allows the process to move along a little faster. So that's, I think, a piece that needs to be discussed as well.
Questions for Nolan?
The 5307 money, as we mentioned one time before, is starting to get calls already from other groups now who, if because of some state rules and federal rules, eligible for some of that money. We're attempting to put together, and I think Nolan will have some slides here to show you what we believe the startup cost of the system will be, and what potential monies, this is certainly may be there, but you're gonna have ACTA, you're gonna have PART, and you're gonna have the group out of the Triad area, all probably making an application for funds. And now, if indeed Burlington will be a recipient, as I understand it, those decisions would have to be made by this council. So we're just trying to lay this thing out in a manner that, and Charles is a big part of this, help us, that can give us a flow where we can get things done in a workable time frame. And we know, being involved at the federal level, that's going to slow things down substantially at times. So the review process will be 90 days, it won't be anything less than 90 days when we do that. Charles, anything else?
Harold, if we get a pretty good sense of the structure that the council would like to see happen, I think as a staff, we can sit down together and present to the council a plan, including staffing requirements, to put that into effect, and get the system up and going. I think you're probably set up on a key decision made at the council level, and then somewhere at that point when you start getting customer service needs and customer route changes and possibly a commission would really be more advantageous too. And I think it's, if we know this direction, we can come back to the council possibly as soon as August and have a sketched out plan of organization, who's making decisions, when you need to make them, and what they have to be, and get a pretty good handle on it.
I think that's right. Put a lot of time in attempting to see how it can work going forward. What we need from you all is some thought on type of governance. Even to go with the advisory committee, do you have in those bylaws the opportunity to say if Gibsonville, if they want to be part of it, if they would have place it on the advisory committee or not, even though it would still come back to council final approval. Because the way we see it now, Charles and Mike and Nolan, tell me I'm wrong, we see Burlington, the city of Burlington, is the recipient of the 5307 funds. The decision then will be made by the city council.
Yes.
I would like to see us move forward and just sort of put the organization structure together, and, put together, the Transportation Advisory Commission, if you would, and, bring it back to us, because I see that as a critical piece in moving forward, and as soon as they're up and running, they can start making recommendations. Until that point, we have to make the decision. We're the recipient, we're the designated grant, 6307 grantee. We just do what we have to in the meantime, but need to get that up and running. And the reason I say that is because I think the people who will participate, namely any of the municipalities, we know Gibsonville, possibly Nevin, we don't know about Grand Valley. As soon as that is in place and you put a mechanism in there, how they're going to participate, they will understand. As soon as that's put together, and if they sort of join in, they'll fit right in. But I think we need to get that on the table and start looking at it.
And Bob, that has the advantage certainly of being, getting things done quicker.
Right.
That way we move on with key decisions made early, and we just have to fit the pieces together.
And Charles, we can actually draft, if we go that route with the commission, we can even go in there and do the weighted numbers based on other cities' participation, can we not?
Yes.
If that's what council wants us to go.
You talking about just for the makeup of the
Advisory board.
When you start talking about weighted, are you talking about as with the TAC weighted votes?
But we can do either number of appointees depending on population makeup or weighted votes, either one, I believe. Nolan, you ran some numbers, did you not, on that?
Yeah. I think it's personnel that is what the thought process was, not voting.
You can do numbers here.
Unlike
Board
TAC.
members. Board members.
Yeah.
You can do board members, is that Shows right there.
Right. I think the board members, rather than a weighted thing, David and I worked with the weighted thing, and I really think like whatever the proposal here is, like Burlington Point 3, Gibsonville 1, Nedden 1, whatever the case may be, it ought to be just based really on members on that board, not going in, one person in Burlington has 80% of the vote, I think.
That, vote up there, that shows you, up there, for example, a 5-person board and a 7-person board based on 2013 population numbers of the percentage breakdown with Burlington, Gibsonville, and Nedden involved, and then just Burlington and Gibsonville involved.
What about, so we're looking at the board makeup from a municipality standpoint, or participant standpoint, but what about some at-large spots? Where like Alamance Community College, if they're gonna be part of it, would have someone, or, I mean, is that something that we've even given any thought to, staff, give any thought to that, Mike? Do you know how others?
You typically have a user on the board at some point. You don't have to do that from the beginning, but you certainly have a user or an agency on that.
So we could draft it so that it can be expandable at what point in time we determine it.
You can determine what their role is.
Is that because they got skin in the game?
It's
Financially?
They may.
They may, but I was mentioning to Nolan, I don't want you to overlook it, and we'll do it at the appropriate time. There's gonna be some need for public involvement and reaching out to stakeholders and things like that before we make certain decisions. Once your governance is done, and you've worked with acting and things, it's just certain things we have to do before we can make a decision. Besides an advisory group's recommendation to you, certain items require public feedback, public notice, public hearing, things of that nature.
And there may be some area of expertise that another entity, a user entity would have that would be lacking, that you could plug in for added structure.
Charles, and actually drawing up an ordinance with the advisory commission, could we put some language in there that would give the council an opportunity to add other people to that advisory commission?
Absolutely. They have that authority anyway, but we can certainly put some language in that demonstrates that the council anticipates that may happen in the future. That's not a problem.
Carl, I'm going to ask a question. Would the others, other than the governmental bodies, would they serve as ex officio, or would they be full voting members? I mean,
The way we have seen it, Bob, is that they are voting members.
Okay.
One thing that also bears into play, even if other people come in, other communities come in, budget approval is always going to have to go back to the board. Because, they have to, I kind of see it operating something like the school board does. They set their budget, and the budget's up to go to various communities for approval. So it's particularly for everybody that we contribute, can't arbitrarily set the rate to pay.
And what even magnifies that is the state and federal law on the 5307 funds is there's going to be other people asking for some of that money beyond the transit system. So certainly that budget would need to come back to you all as a group. We have to make that decision. Am I totally confusing you there?
No, well, that does.
Yes, sir.
We sort of made that decision now with regards to what we do with Park doing on it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
that's not gonna change, that's gonna be
That's right.
this council's decision.
That's what this council, is going to have other people in there asking for parts of this too, so it's a, that's what we certainly.
And the fiduciary responsibility of documentation and reporting will be City of Burlington to FTA.
From what I've seen, it's a pretty much judgment decision made by the designated recipient, which is where application is being right now. It's a judgment call of this body. I agree with you that there's certainly going to be some ethical or legal limitations on arbitrarily exercising that authority, which would require you to have some basis upon which you make allocations. But those bases will always have to please the other body. I think you have to be there.
So, do I hear that the council wants the staff to go back process of putting together the governance revolving around the advisory commission, and then bring that back to you all for further consideration.
Yeah, I think so, and the entities that we have to have, that we would, like you said, ACC, ARMC, people like that, that would be, have an invitation to the board.
Well, just the caveat.
No, not in the beginning.
We can expand.
Yeah, expand it. Now we go with the certain scenario.
But the assignment would be simply to, create an advisory council.
Right.
And put that enabling language in
Right,
there.
to allow it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that'll work.
And Charles, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's soon, I would think probably as a staff, we need to begin to talk to Gibsonville to the world, go back to Mebane again officially.
I think so. I think we need to tell them the process that our council is headed toward and what we're ready to do. So they make decisions based on what the governance will be. I agree that, we're going to be pushing this wagon up the hill, so we need to make it workable for us, and then they can come in, then we look at that down the road.
Then, and soon, we would probably need to make the determination, no matter what they do, if we want to extend the system through the town square and ground and go to ACC or not, even no matter what anybody else does. And I think that will come up soon also.
Yes.
I'm not missing something here.
Do we see the advisory board as purely advisory, or do they have any structured bylaws, any authority to make certain types of decisions?
I would think it's purely advisory.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, I don't wanna open up this topic, but I don't know how you decide, what you decide and what you not, that's kind of worms. Right now, it's purely advisory, like all our other commissions, Historically, this council has accepted, I'd say probably 95, 99% of what's been recommended. I don't really see any operational functional problem for that.
And I only ask because I know Concord has authority, that's what I was trying to make it clear.
Well, at some point in time, it ever, I'm not saying it may not go there, but right now, it would be as we hear it, an advisory commission. That's how we said it as we speak now.
That's my opinion, yes.
Any other questions, comments for Harold?
No, but one thing I do want to clarify, so we're talking about, Harold, we're talking about next step being beyond that, routes. On here, we've got a timeline available. Is that what you have on this chart? I mean, are we trying to work by this, or are we trying to expedite this possible? What's the plan of staff?
Well, in order to order buses, you need to know how many buses you
Sure,
need. You need to know how many is Mebane going to be in. We're obviously saying they're in. Mebane's in, that's another bus you need to order. So we definitely need to get that decision made, but I think they need to know if we're going to ACC or not.
I guess my point is there's probably some of these decisions that we can make much faster than this timeline.
And that's why I was asking, does the council want to make some of the decisions before this advisory commission gets put in place? And then we got to, obviously, I'm working hopefully with Mike, contracts approved tomorrow night, on the needed public input, things of that nature, make sure we're meeting all the travel requirements. And also just to make sure we're getting people's input on these things.
And we've got some 5307 monies that that Park receives now. Is that correct?
Art, I think it was.
Annually, I think over the last 3 years, they've submitted requests, and you go back, you can.
Right, so
We've got one trip with that.
when we've got a timeline here, and obviously we're going to draw down these funds. I know you can stack these funds for startup. But is their request in any way going to inhibit our ability to draw these funds down? In other words, is there enough to continue doing what they're doing now?
So that's the letter they submitted to us, that was gonna come in with others soon. That's what that's what Harold's mentioned, you're gonna get that decision point.
So, but I'm saying there's nothing that we've committed to now.
No, you haven't done anything, it's just sort of on the table.
I got you.
No commitment to be made.
This gives you an idea of fiscal year 13, funds, the fiscal year 14 funds that ought to be available up front. And then once you subtract out what we're estimating, from those initial upfront costs, that leaves you a balance that we anticipate, other agencies making requests on that.
So
But
that's,
I think transit's gonna have to, our public fixed transit system's gonna have to be the priority.
At 600,
Absolutely.
that number's not, that's not a solid number.
It's not a solid number, it's only potential, and that's why we
The
don't know
point
what that number
that we
is.
could shake it.
is, that's not solid.
Right.
The point is, I think what Michael's Nolan's trying to do here is, the bus system becomes the major player, and everybody else kind of comes into play after that, then.
It's the only player till it's zeros anyway.
That's right. That's
There
right.
you go.
That's the way to put it. Yeah.
Any other questions? Are
All
we
right.
good?
Nolan, you want to go into two of the things we got for tomorrow night on the council?
Yes, tomorrow night we have the amendment to Mobility Solutions. That's the firm that Mike works for that's been helping us through this process. So we need to amend that contract so that we've established that administrative staff to take us through the process and also administering it as we go forward. Then we have, we're trying to get our FTA grantee application in place because you have to get your grantee status in place to be able to make a 5307 request. So we're working on that, and there is a resolution on the agenda tomorrow night that authorizes Harold to make any requests necessary. So those two things are on the agenda for tomorrow night.
Questions, no?
What we'll try to do is do sort of a check-down system at each meeting to kind of give us an idea of where we are going forward and try to determine where the schedule will be as we go on the next week.
Okay, so we're gonna make an adjustment to that schedule, is that what you're saying?
Well, we just start checking things off.
Right, okay.
We get them done.
All right.
That's the key to it.
All right, any other questions on public transportation, guys? Okay.
Okay, gentlemen, Charles,
Yes.
have a good dinner.
Thanks, Al. Talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks.
We'll miss you tomorrow night, Charles.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I think he's actually coming back to work.
Oh, he is coming back? Well,
You gave him time off, John.
Did I hear waves in the background?
This is, several weeks ago, we had a conversation with a young man here in town who is involved with the Mayor's Maker Challenge, which is a movement that is really beginning to catch an awful lot of traction across the country in reference to innovative new businesses. You may have saw him out in the Burlington paper where he particular individual, actually attended the conference at the White House, and he's called back a couple of times, and we felt like it'd be important, and Rachel has talked to him on several occasions, to kind of give you an outline of what this is about, and see what the council might want to, the role of the city to be. So Rachel.
All right, I'll be brief, but we did think this needed to come to you guys, because the mayor's challenge is really a council challenge here in Burlington. If you're not familiar with the maker movement, I've learned a lot recently. Wikipedia defines the maker culture as a contemporary culture representing a technology-based extension of the do-it-yourself culture. Makers tend to believe in learning through doing and pursue engineering-oriented projects such as electronics, robotics, 3D printing, metalworking, woodworking, and other traditional arts and crafts. The Alamance Makers Guild, of which Mr. Bennett Harris, who contacted us, is the founder, is a community for makers in and around Alamance County. They formed in 2011. They meet monthly. They hold special events and also the Makers Fair, which Harold mentioned. The founder, Bennett Harris, contacted the city late May asking us to participate in the Mayor's Maker Challenge. It's a national challenge sponsored by the Manufacturing Alliance of Communities to promote maker movements as a larger strategy to boost manufacturing entrepreneurships in communities. The organization states that cities need makers because manufacturing and technology innovations drive economic growth. To accept the challenge and be part of the Maker Community Network, which is the overarching group, the city must make a public pledge and take one of the 10 steps in supporting the maker movement in the community. The 10 steps were in that letter in your packet. Alamance Makers Guild's already actively doing most of those steps. They're holding roundtables and meetings and maker fairs. They're forming relationships with the school system, the community college, Elon, the library, and working to create support throughout the community. Their ultimate goal is to open a community makerspace where the makers can use their communal space and communal resources to create, market, and sell their products. While council may one day elect to incentivize startups and community groups with incubator spaces or economic incentives, my suggestion is that currently we do participate and support this initiative and this movement in the community, but on a smaller basis where we would appoint a maker liaison, a staff member, who would really just keep abreast of what's going on in the maker community. That way, when an opportunity for the city's resources to help them arise, we'll be able to make that connection and work together to make that happen. If you've got any questions, I'll do my best to field them.
What other cities are participating in this mayor to maker challenge?
And Raleigh is, and I believe, let's see. Gave me one really good example. They said Conover, North Carolina is really into this. They've actually done a lot to support theirs. And as also I want to say Concord, off the top of my head, were the North Carolina cities that were participating. There are tons throughout the country. But the challenge was only a month. They started it with a month deadline. They wanted by June 12th, I believe, the first batch of cities to participate before the White House Makers Fair. We just felt like that was a pretty tight deadline for us to make a decision on support or not.
So the city, if I understand it correctly, any of these 10 here, we could say that's the degree. In other words, let's say, for example, you know, I'm not so sure, I'm just speaking for myself, that I'm willing to make any financial commitment. You know, I wouldn't be opposed to, you know, designate somebody as a liaison and learn more about it, and when opportunities come up, you know, we can take a look. That's just my feeling in a nutshell.
I think cities have kind of gone anywhere on the spectrum based on what they're already doing to support other community groups in the community. Some are, you know, creating maker spaces and letting people use them. Some are appointing a liaison so they're there to connect resources when they become available.
Any other comments or questions for Rachel?
No, I will say that if you look at the Trade Business Journal and a couple of other publications, you see that there's a pretty large movement abreast of these type of organizations and what they bring to your downtown area specifically. And there's municipalities that are starting sort of a la carte with not even this much structure. They're trying to incubate that and emulate that. So, I mean, I think it's something that we should definitely support and just see what opportunities lie before council and staff to expand it if necessary.
Support, keep your eye on it.
Will do. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, the next two items on the agenda are connected. Part of Tony's report is going to refer back to the Glencoe Village. And I'd ask Daniel, some of you all, Daniel has been our contact person, Daniel, for how many years now with Glencoe Village? This thing started when you...
Oh my goodness. Well, if you include my time with the county, you can say about 14 and a half. Because this has been a joint project really over the years between both Burlington and the county.
So Daniel's going to give you the history of Glencoe, which will lead into Tony's presentation from Parks and Rec.
Good evening, gentlemen. Councilman Ward, Councilman Huffman, I know you guys were involved in this early on in this development in various ways, so some of this may be familiar to you. And what I'm going to talk about basically is where Glencoe was, how it's been redeveloped, where it is today, and the role Burlington's had in it. And again, as Harold alluded to, that's going to play into what Tony's going to present with you following my presentation. And this is what it looked like in the late 90s. The plan was formulated with Preservation North Carolina. What was special about Glencoe was, you know, it's a mill village just like any other that we had around here. We have quite a few, but this one was largely intact from when it was in operation years ago due to its isolated location out 62 along the river. And it was really one large tract of land that the Ryan family of Graham had. Preservation North Carolina and the Enterprise worked together, and then they joined forces with Alamance County and the city of Burlington to redevelop this mill village. And what they did, they identified different uses for land here. What you see here, this was industrial land, former mill sites. The yellow, that was all original housing still in existence, and I'll have some pictures to show you that it looked pretty rough at that point in time. These lots right here were slated for infill development, and I've got some photos of houses that were built on some of those infill sites that you really have to know the key details to determine the difference between an original house and a new building up there. That, of course, is what the mill building looks like many years ago. It was in operation from 1880 to 1954, down along the river. And I'm going to go through fairly quickly. I don't want to take too long here. But just some of the industrial structures that were out there, this is before any work was done. The original mill structure here, this is the hydroelectric power plant, which actually is still in use today. Water tower, which that's been totally restored, repainted, and a nice World War II era Quonset hut, and a small warehouse. All right, now pay attention here. This is what it looked like in the late 90s. This is Glencoe Street, just off of Highway 62 north of the river. This is Hodges Road, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with what it looks like today, but it's quite a contrast. And these were the houses that were there. They still are. This is what they look like, and this is just the late 90s. And there, that was the streetscape down Glencoe. What happened was Preservation North Carolina, in conjunction with local planning agencies, had a planning charrette out there for the community to determine the vision and what they wanted to see this mill village become. A large aspect of that was recreation, as Tony will get into in just a little bit as well. I'll tell you a little bit about that. The city had a huge involvement with water and sewer expansion. This redevelopment project would not have happened without this city, without the city of Burlington. And especially because there was no water or sewer north of the river. This picture was taken in, wrong button there, guys. This picture was taken in '99. See if this will come back on for me. And the city had to extend water and sewer and extend their ETJ because the area was actually in the county's jurisdiction at the time. But of course, the policy was with Burlington that water and sewer would not be extended into an area that was not zoned. So the city had to extend their extraterritorial jurisdiction as well, which then brought planning jurisdiction, historic commission jurisdiction, and of course water and sewer authority. Is this thing going to come back on for me? Okay. Okay, let's use that one. Thanks, I apologize, gentlemen, for that. And what the rest of this PowerPoint will show you is some pictures again of what it looks like today. And also, I'll just go ahead and mention that Carrie Earthworth from Hedgehog Holdings is here, and she represents the actual mill owner. And I can't believe it just shut down altogether, didn't it? Okay, are we back into this? So if there's any questions for the mill owner when I'm done, Craig can certainly answer that. Take this opportunity to put her on
We
the
can
spot.
use our imaginations, go ahead.
I'm sure you can, and some of you are familiar with it anyway. Again, a big part of this redevelopment was the recreational uses. All right, we're back. Very good. All right. Again, this was some of the shared costs that went into it, the county, the city, and Preservation North Carolina. So it was definitely a project that took partners to make happen. And of course, this is what we've got out there now. Some really nice restorations. And again, showing you what the houses looked like before and what they look like now. And this was actually a new build. This was featured in Country Living magazine probably about 7 or 8 years ago when it was constructed. There's street lighting out there. There's informational signage that's been put in. And you'd be surprised at the number of visitors from out there. I would dare say that there's probably more people from out of town that go out there than people from here. Just because a lot of people don't even know what we have in our own backyard. In fact, Hunter Glenn, our intern in planning, and I went out there this past Friday. We stopped by Jerry Nall's Textile Heritage Museum, We were there maybe 5 minutes, and a lady popped her head in the door and had 2 people from California just wanting to take a look at it. And that's the nature of things out there. That's not uncommon at all. All right, park development. The city of Burlington's been involved in this. Alamance County's really been involved heavily as well, as that a lot of the residual property that was not mill houses has become a really nice county park with trails, canoe access, and the North Carolina Mountains to Sea Trail actually runs through Glencoe as well. As you will see right there, that's a map of it. We have a section from Indian Valley Golf Course on city property all the way down to Carolina Mill, and this is used. And then the blue and the purple are county trails that are out there. All right, the streetscape as it was before, and the streetscape as it is now. So a major transformation over the past 15 years out there. There's a list of partners and what they were involved in making this happen. And again, I can go back if you'd like me to, but I'll just keep going. Again, the mill redevelopment was its own animal, we'll say, too. The residential development was one phase. You've seen pictures of that. The mill development is a slow and ongoing process, but that is really the cornerstone of the whole mill village out there, of course. And we had a long development process, which you were involved also with rezoning several years ago to make this happen. That was the site plan that was approved by TRC, and the rezoning plan incorporated stormwater controls, zoning requirements for parking, and the actual rezoning was conditional industrial and just allowed for a whole host of uses, largely because the mill owner wasn't exactly sure what could go in there, but he knew that there would be a variety of uses that might want to. And I think you guys have a variety of uses out there now, Gary. Much more on the way, hopefully, in the near future. All right, just some of the redevelopment. This is Alamance Partnership for Children's Office. They've got a great location out there, as you'll see. Completely restored building. It was not in really good shape when it was done. This is the back of the building. That's an entire glass wall where the offices are, overlooks the mill race and the island. It's really beautiful from inside their offices. And these are just some smaller offices and units that were also renovated along there. Some other things, they incorporate artwork. This is actually if any of you are familiar with textiles, I believe that's a shuttle. And it is actually very large.
What was that again? Shuttle.
And the hydro.
Add one more word.
Yeah. I'm sure. The hydroelectric power plant and the mill race itself. So it's got some natural scenery out there that's beautiful as well. This was inside the Alamance Partnership for Children office. And this is one you'll need to pay close attention to, as Tony's going to talk more about this one in a few minutes. This was the dye house. And this is what it looked like. This is just a few years ago. As you notice, there is really no roof there. It's in the floor. And this is in May, right there. So it's quite the transformation. This is inside that building now. And again, please pay close attention. Tony will tell you why in just a few minutes. This is what's called the Model Outdoor Learning Center. Alamance Partnership for Children helped to have this built. The city actually partnered in this too. And this is a place, it's an outdoor learning environment for children is what it is. They've got several exhibits set up for various ages in a natural setting. And of course, it's still a work in progress. The main mill is still yet to be redeveloped and uses determined, but it's come a long ways from its origins. And do you have any questions of the city's involvement in Glencoe over the years or anything else I've said?
Questions for Daniel? Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
So that being said, Tony is, he talked about Parks and Rec and monthly presentations, but one part he's been focused on today is an opportunity that he's been involved with as a whole staff has been presented to us, that he will give you guys some additional information on the line. So,
Thank you, Harold. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here as always. If it gets any hotter in this room, I might have to do my presentation in the nude, and I'm sure that will fill the room pretty good. turned that thermostat down about 3 times and I haven't got any results.
Just remember one thing, short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, absolutely, don't worry about that. Anyway, I do want to thank Carrie for coming tonight. She's not here really to answer any questions, but her and Frank Caleb, the owner, have been really, really great to work with and dedicated many years with us out at Glencoe, and we certainly appreciate it, Carrie. All of y'all are pretty familiar with what we do, so we're just going to give you a little overview of how we're organized, and then we're going to concentrate on some new things as far as recreation and parks. I've had several discussions with Harold, and recreation and parks, public recreation itself is changing. Athletics has been a big traditional sport and participation for us for many years, as well as other recreation departments. A lot of that's going away now, or not so going away. I know you saw an article in the paper about the city softball program. Well, it's not just Burlington softball program, it's nationwide. Softball as a sport has lost over a third of its participation in the last 5 years, so we're not alone in that. But there are some things that the younger generations do and want to do that are certainly going to be new to us and new to public recreation. But anyway, we have 2 different divisions in our setup. We have a parks division headed up by Jim Self, and it takes care of our facilities and upkeep, maintenance. And we have a programming division called the recreation division that does all of our activities and a wide gamut of things that serve our citizens. So Jim, you're up first to talk about your division.
As Tony alluded to, the Parks Division is charged with maintenance of over 22 parks and facilities. Lakes and marinas from Stony Creek to Lake Camac to Lake McIntosh to Elton Millside to Gifford Mackside. City Park amusement area. We also maintain all aquatic operations from Maynard Aquatic Center to North Park Pool at Mako Bigelow Center, as well as the pool out at Lake Camac, which is also known as the Camp Greenleafs Pool. Of course, they use during the 5 weeks of camp in the summer, and that pool is also rented with the shelter out there as well. Concession operations at City Park and Springwood Park, and we also assist with the department-wide special events throughout the city, which of course leads into our programming division.
And that's Lisa Wolf is our superintendent of recreation, so she's going to tell you about the programming side.
You guys know mostly all of the facilities that we have. Youth Center, that-a-ways, been in existence for quite some time. Senior Activities Facility, the John Robert Canoe Senior Center. We operate after schools, at summer camps, 5 different community centers, 18 specialty camps. We've seen, I guess at the time of the recession a few years ago, our participation in summer camps dropped tremendously. So we kind of regrouped and reevaluated what would be creative ideas and came up with a specialty camp. So what those things are basically a 1-week camp. So this week we have a fishing camp. 2 weeks ago we had a Lego camp, an arts camp. So taking it and just kind of reprogramming it. But then on the upswing, all of our camps are full this summer with waiting lists. So it has definitely come back around. As Tony mentioned, adult and youth athletics. We have over 50 special events that take place across the board throughout the city on an annual basis. Also, we have the front office operations where all of our revenue, as Peggy knows, comes through. Registrations, building reservations, a variety of different things take place at the front desk, as well as processing 300+ time cards on a bi-weekly basis. We've got great staff in the peak of the season that do that. Paramount Theater, the Tennis Center, and all of the marketing and public relations through my division. Oh, I got the next one. See, I have to do multitasking.
And then when all the women say they multitask.
That's right. We're known for that. So this is something Amy and I have had some conversations on, and a lot of these type of things will come out probably from the comp plan, but basically it's the value of what Parks and Rec is to your community. As you know, we've got everything from the economic revenue generator. We bring in tournaments, we have special events, people come from out of town to participate, put money back into our community. The values of trees, different, the aesthetics of your community, the many health benefits, premium increase when it comes to parks. They're coming, and positive property values. I came across a comment about, from Charlotte Mecklenburg, their Parks and Rec, and basically it says, where there's a park, there's a community. So for the most part, we feel that we have a positive impact on the quality of life and through the value of our parks and programmings within the city. Oh, that's me too. And so where do we go, basically, from here when it comes to seeking new ideas or new programs or new facilities and things like that? 2 years ago, we updated our master plan. We gained a lot of citizen input from that. We completed a survey, and a lot of those pieces are coming together also through the comp plan. And so what we did is we take some of that input, although facilities really aren't we're not adding any new facilities at the current time. We take that and we try to figure out what ideas through programming can take place. And then we establish partnerships in the community to help some of those programming ideas and opportunities take place as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Now we're going to look at some new trends, and I want to emphasize the value of public-private partnerships. We understand the financial situation of the city, and we're not here asking you for money. None of these things will involve city money, except this golf course, which is very minimal. I'll tell you about that. But we're trying to raise funds in the private sector to help generate new things for our department and take a little bit of the burden off the taxpayers of having to pay for these things. We absolutely appreciate all the support that we've gotten over the years from the city councils and the city managers, because we have a tremendous system, and it's all due to the support that we've gotten from our elected officials and our administrator. This is a little new trend. Some of you may not have seen it. It used to be called road courses, but now it's called Treetop Adventures. So we got just a little short video to show you.
It was really, really good. There were some really quite harder bits and some easy bits. That was the best thing I've ever done. Today, I really loved it. I never thought that we
I think the Treetop course was excellent for our children. They've really linked in well with their learning. I think they've got to learn to like seeing how the maths and the zip file links together. And you can see them in trees and all that. They were really good for their story writing and their imagination. It was excellent to come in. It's a brilliant day for everybody.
This is an international company. You saw the United Kingdom version, but they also have a United States division. I saw this a few months ago, contacted these people. The good thing about it, if they bring one of these courses here, they pay all the cost, about $500,000 to install it. All we do is provide the site, they do the installation, provide all the materials, they do the operation, complete operation of it, including the security and maintenance of it, and we share in the revenue. So all we have to do is provide a site. They've made one site visit here back in the spring and looked at a couple of our lake facilities. They want to come back for a second site visit, and they're in the process of working that up. And hopefully we'll get them to come here, and it'll be a new facility for us. And as I mentioned a while ago, the trends. A lot of the younger families, parents with young children, they're looking for activities like this where they can participate as a family. So that's one thing that we're in the process of working on. year, we were approached by some disc golf players. Disc golf has been in the county for a while at Cedar Rock Park, and a small course at Beth Smith Park in Elon. But we didn't have anything in our system, and so we were approached by a group of players that wanted to put one in at Springwood Park. Going to the next slide. And that's a layout. You can see the holes. We used the perimeter of the park to put the disc golf course in so that it wouldn't interfere with the other activities, and it's gone pretty well. It's been installed now. We had a partnership with the Tourism Development Authority. They gave us half of the installation money, $6,000, to put this course in, and so it's pretty inexpensive. We've got a lot of play in it since it opened up about 9 months ago, and we've also had one tournament with plans for more tournaments, and hopefully some economic impact heads on bids. Okay, the Glencoe Partnership is another public-private partnership. We have actually formed a corporation, North Carolina Corporation, and gotten 501c3 designation for RS to raise the money to put a nature center into that dye house that Daniel showed you that was falling down. Daniel showed a lot of the pictures that we have here, but go ahead, Lisa. Yeah, this is the pretty much finished dye house after it's been renovated. There's a lot of work to do around the outside, of course, to dress it up and everything, but the building's been restored completely. New roofing parts, used part of the roof and other parts. We're keeping the walls pretty much intact and the floors, so that it shows the character of what it was. If you see the two circles on the bottom of the floor there, at the bottom of this thing, those were where the dye vats were. Those of you that grew up in this community know that the dye houses and a lot of the mills were big polluters of the Hall River. When I first came here back in the 60s, the water changed colors frequently and had a lot of bubbles and foam in it, all from the effluent from these dye houses. That's all been cleaned up. Luckily, the Hall River is much, much cleaner, good quality water now. This is a workshop part of the dye house that we'll have classes and instruction in. There's one of the dye vats outside. We have plans to put those in the courtyard right behind the building and hopefully make aquariums out of them. But this is, like I say, a public-private partnership. We're working with Hedgehog, Gary, and Frank to secure ownership of the building. Daniel and a lot of the other city departments have been involved in how we're going to do that. Looks like it's going to be a condominium project, and we will hopefully raise we're in the process of raising the money now to make that purchase. It will be needing to be city ownership to allow us to apply for both state grants through the Park and Recreation Trust Fund and federal grants through the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which we're in the process of working on right now to get more funds for this.
Tony, explain what that lower right here.
Okay, this right here, this is the already completed Outdoor Learning Center. The Outdoor Learning Center was a project with us and Alamance Partnership for Children. It was actually designed by the National Learning Institute at NC State University, pretty well-known group. This is recreation, sort of like I grew growing up in the woods, where you took what was there and made play structures out of it instead of what we see, the molded plastic modern playgrounds that are in our system now. This is to get kids back to nature, educate them about what's available out there. The entranceway here that you see with the big trellis there, that's designed to the neighbors in Glencoe Village. You have to work with those neighbors out there to fit things in. And then, they're nice people and everything, but they don't want something to stick out like a sore thumb. This approximates a house. The house is laid out there with the wooden walk across a little ditch that you'll see on a lot of these houses, and then they get into the playground area. That's a water flume. It's got a hand pump that it's city water we're pumping, but it's actually it goes into a hand pump and down that water flume. And it's got a lot of activities like that in this little area. This was put on it was actually pretty much wooded lots when we started, future building lot, hopefully we'll be able to keep it as a, outdoor learning center, right, Kerry?
Tony, that is not a water slide either.
No, no, it's not a water slide, it's like it's just a little water frog. But as the kids love, hey, and I'll tell you what, every time I go in that little area, I have to pump that pump. Because I pumped the pump like that a long time back on the farm. Okay. Do you want? No. Like I said, we're in the process right now and we got a lot of community partners in this, working with the Robin Woody. I know Mr. Mayor knows Robin Woody was a long-time principal in our school system. He's been a part-time employee of us back in his younger days and now teaches nature camp for us. So he's doing the education part of it, and we're hard at work trying to raise the money. Which brings me to another slide. We have a lot of city departments represented here: police, public works, where's Bob? Water resources, IT, finance. We couldn't do what we do without the cooperation and help from all the other city departments. We get tremendous amount of help from public works, especially with building maintenance, cemetery grounds, street department, traffic signs and signals. Fire and police are always there to help us when needed. Police actually man just about every one of our special events with officers and traffic control and so forth. Fire, especially on the fireworks shows, they have plenty of people out there to make sure we're safe. Water resources, we get a lot of help from them. North Park Pool, right now where we just completed a filter renovation project over there. They helped us with that. They're always looking for leaks that we spring in the pools. So I just want to say, without all the rest of our city departments, our Recreation and Parks Department wouldn't be able to do a whole lot. So everyone here, thank you very much for your all support. And to wrap this up, Lisa's going to give you a little bit of a look at what some of our needs are.
So we all know that there's always needs when it comes with facilities and upgrading and things like that. So here we've talked over the past few years about a couple potential projects that could be on the radar screen at some point. One of them, of course, is a focus in the downtown area. There's been lots of discussion over the past few years about the depot and what to do with that area. There's some talk now that's taken place that Tony's had in reference to the depot building itself. The outside, the courtyard, the Fourth Fridays have been tremendous downtown. I was able to make the last one, and it was unbelievable the amount of people that were down there. But the functionality of the space is still a question. Aging older facilities, buildings and shelters, gyms, the pool at North Park, as Tony just mentioned, continues to pose some challenges for us. Facilities, there's not an indoor facility west of City Park. Walkways and greenways, we're starting to see that, I think, as some of the results of the comp plan being a priority. Drainage issues at Springwood Park on the fields, big issue during the rainy season. And there's been discussion at some point about this possible expansion of the Coronado Center. So the question would be is, how down the road do we really take this into perspective, and what are our options? So that's something, in the next few years we probably need to start taking a look at. Do we start looking towards a bond referendum from Parks and Recreation? What other financing options are out there to help us be able to maintain facilities that we have? We do submit grants, as Tony said, with the Glencoe project. I serve on the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund Authority for the state parks, and we just had an awards grant meeting this past Friday, and the funds are tight. The funds are really tight. But this Glencoe project is a really unique opportunity because of the fact of one of the things Daniel mentioned about tying in the Haw River Mountains to the Sea Trail, and that facility is adjacent to that trail. So there's some good possibilities with land water conservation funds that might be available down the road too. And with that, go ahead.
One other thing that I want to mention, this is real preliminary, it's in the infancy stages, baby steps, but I've already had a couple of conversations with the local foundation. that's interested in providing a spray park for us, or a spray pad. If you're not familiar with that, it's a water feature where you have these fixtures that are way up in the air, and kids play under them, and water sprays out in different kind of patterns and so forth. There's 2 in Greensboro I know of, and this local foundation is really interested in that, so that may be, it's something we want to do for a while. Haven't had the money, but hopefully they will help us, and we'll get that in too. And then I want to put in a special word for our planning director, Amy Nelson. Amy has been really helpful to us, and hopefully we're helping her on the comprehensive plan with recreation and parks, because she's got a vision that, you know, and that I share, that recreation and parks really has a future for the city, economically, as well as providing the quality of life for our citizens. So I expect to hear some really good things out of Amy and our planning department as we go forward. Anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Walls or Mr. Self or Ms.
Wolf?
We have one more thing I wanted to show you guys. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Last year,
Push your luck, Lisa.
we put together a short 3-minute video spot with a lot of the community, and we aired on the front page of the website and use it for different promotional purposes. So I want you to see this because it's pretty impacting. Makes us appreciate what we do.
We're so blessed here in Burlington, North Carolina, to have magnificent parks and recreational opportunities. Today, the industry is compressing time so much that it's wonderful to have those spaces where families and individuals can get outside and enjoy the fresh air and what goes on.
What we have to offer here within the Burlington community is such a good cross-section of intergenerational activities all the way from the kids at the parks, the junior seniors, the senior seniors, and the interaction between the groups.
With the community getting involved with Burlington Parks and Rec and participating in the things that are being sponsored and giving feedback on things that they would actually like to see, it makes them feel like they are being heard, and the things that they really feel good about themselves and things that they really want to see come to the park. We're working to have that come together for them.
The facilities that the city has invested in also bring economic benefit to our community. We're able to host national tournaments, whether it be in soccer or softball or some colleges. We're able to host local tournaments, and all that brings dollars back into the city's pocket, back into businesses' pockets throughout our community.
Start off with an idea and a vision for where you want it to go, and when it really happens, when you see people in the community really proud of that, and you hear the word being spread about the great things that are happening, and Burlington Parks and Recs have given us so much support, it just really makes everybody feel great.
And Burlington is a unique place in which government, private citizens, industry, individuals all come together to have a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to work, and a wonderful place to be competitive, and also enjoy the outside.
Really good.
Any questions? Who produced that? Was that all done in-house, or, because it looks like you guys got some professionals.
It was done by professionals.
Right. We work closer with them.
Any questions?
Now, let me say this though, to Jim and Lisa and you, Tony, we really appreciate what you guys do for us, because one of our most positive resources is our recreation department. So we appreciate all the hard work that you guys do for us as well, so.
Thank you very much.
And I will say this too, any type of criticism that we get, Tony is all over it all the time. And for that, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you for the time.
Guys, anything for tomorrow night, just, would mention to you that we have got a proposal for a change of the first meeting in August council meeting, which first Tuesday night is the night out for the police, so we're about changing the, council meeting to Monday night, and, to Tuesday night, and Jeff will bill us, how many sites we have this year, Jeff, you know yet?
We're up over 30 with a couple more weeks to go, so we'll have a couple of night of cancellations, but I think we'll be at solid about 30 sites, up from 20-ish last year. So our block off overall grew from 40 to 60 this year, so busy night.
Anything you guys we need to talk about for tomorrow night, or we're good to go?
Chief, I'm asking much, I'm gonna ride most of the law. Still all the night outs. We're ready to play. We're ready to play, all right? Yeah. You know.
Thank y'all for coming.
God.